The meeting of the Committee on Legislation, Rules, and Policies of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon.
Present.
Director Jackson has asked to be excused this evening. Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Director Vinoy.
Present.
And Chair Zomber.
Present.
That's 4 present. We have a quorum.
Oh, and then just for the record, we also have Director Reza who's joining us for the committee tonight. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance was recited at our previous meeting. This meeting is being conducted from the Central Services Building. It's also being broadcast on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website and the upcoming meetings page. Agenda items and attachments are also found on the upcoming meetings page of the MPS website. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si deseas escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor le llame al número 312-626-6799. Otra vez es 312-626-6799. Introduzca al número de reunión de 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Muchas gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to our Secretary, Dr. Owen Moore. Virtual speakers are asked to remain on the platform until you are called upon. After speaking, virtual speakers may follow the rest of the meeting using the broadcast information previously mentioned. For the sake of fairness tonight, and to give everyone a chance to speak, the Chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Disruptive or disrespectful behavior will not be permitted. If it occurs, the meeting may be paused, and those involved may be asked to step out so we can continue in a safe and productive manner. Thank you for helping us ensure a positive experience for everyone. And now, given that our focus this year is literacy, we have some help with our messages from one of our young readers, Abby, who is a 7th grader at Cooper School.
Welcome to tonight's committee meeting. The committee will accept public comments on tonight's agenda items. Speakers may only address the item for which they have registered. Questions from the public may not be answered during the public comment period. Following public comment, the committee will begin its discussion, and no additional comments will be accepted. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record, like this: Tanya Jacobs, Jacobs. Written testimony will also be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 532012181, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Orders dictates that all comments, questions, or requests should be directed to the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. Also, no one other than the members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees.
Thank you, Abby, for being tonight's reader, and a special thank you to Ms. Kukloff, teacher at Cooper, for encouraging her students to read for our meetings. If you have a child that would like to read for the board meeting, please send a message to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from board members, I would like to consider item 2 first to allow the public to speak earlier. Okay. Would you call that item, please?
Madam Chair, item 2 is action on approval of Resolution 2526R-004 by Director Zomber on accountability for the School Resource Officer Program. The administration recommends that the board approve Resolution 2526R-004 by Director Zomber on accountability for the School Resource Office Program with the recommended revisions as attached.
Okay. Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Zombor and members of the committee, Brenda Casellia, Superintendent. On December 18th, 2025, Resolution 2526R-004 on accountability for the School Resource Officer Program was introduced by Director Zombor and referred to the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. As such, the administration completed a review of the resolution and consulted with legal counsel to assess the alignment with existing district guidelines and practices and policy. As a result of that review, the administration is proposing red line revisions to ensure clarity, consistency, and compliance with district standards and intergovernmental agreements. The resolution directs the administration to develop a policy, work with MPD on alignment with the IGA, and develop an annual report to the board. We'll also monitor ongoing evaluation of the program and conduct training of our administrators and safety personnel. Accordingly, it is recommended that the resolution be approved with the revisions as attached.
Thank you. As the sponsor of the resolution, I just want to say a few words, and then we'll go to public testimony. First, I just want to thank everyone who's here for the School Resource Officer Accountability Resolution. At this core, it's about making our schools safer. Schools should be places where students can learn, grow, and make mistakes without being unnecessarily criminalized for normal child, adolescent behavior. I want to acknowledge the youth empowered in the struggle, yes students, for meeting with me multiple times. And speaking with honesty, clarity, and courage about your experiences and recommendations. Your student leadership is powerful, and I'm grateful for your willingness to be so open. I also want to thank partners with the Milwaukee Turners, the MTEA, Amanda Merkway from the ACLU, Commissioner Fung from the Fire and Police Commission, Leaders Igniting Transformation, and Micah's Education Task Force for their input and valuable feedback on this resolution. I know we have a lot of speakers tonight, so here's the Cliff Notes version of what's in the resolution, just in case you haven't read all of it yet, but it is online. So the resolution directs the administration to develop a clear policy and a new memorandum of understanding for the School Resource Officer Program, one that better puts students' rights, safety, and well-being at the center. And to do it, one, more clearly defines the roles and responsibilities. School leaders, not police officers, are responsible for managing student behavior and enforcing the student code of conduct. SROs should be involved only in criminal matters, not school-managed behavior. It strengthens transparency and accountability. Over the last year, most of the incidents involving an SRO that I've learned from, I've actually learned about from reporters, not from MPD or the district. And as board members, we can't fix things that are wrong if we don't know about them. We shouldn't have to do an open records request to find out how much a citation was for. This resolution requires regular public reporting, clearer data, annual evaluation, so the board and the public and all of you can understand how the program is operating, review the data, and make suggestions. It ensures students and families know their rights and how to make a complaint if they feel that those rights were violated, or if a SRO possibly acted outside of the scope of the MOU. Students should not have to guess what their rights are when interacting with law enforcement at school, and this resolution requires proactive communication so families and students can understand those protections. It also explicitly directs the district to continue strengthening non-police safety and emergency response strategies that support student and staff well-being without an unnecessary reliance on law enforcement. It's not lost on me that there is a common perception that police presence automatically makes schools safer. However, there's no substantial evidence that police involvement in schools improves safety or academic outcomes. Study after study shows that early contact with the justice system significantly increases the likelihood that students disengage from school altogether, and the psychological impacts of constant police presence can be real and lasting, especially for Black students and students with disabilities. Without clear and strict guardrails, it's easy for SROs to become the default response to all behavior challenges. This resolution is pro-student, pro-learning, pro-accountability. It ensures that if SROs are present in our schools, their role is limited to what's outlined in the MOU. The impact they have on our students is transparent and evaluated and aligned with our legal and moral obligations to every student. So I'm grateful for everyone here tonight and hope that your comments and especially student stories will move the district into action. So with that, do we have any members of the public who wish to make comments?
We have several speaker slips on this item.
Okay, let's do our virtual speaker first. Looks like there's one on the virtual platform.
We have Angela Harris. Can you hear us? Angela Harris, are you online? Can you hear us?
We can always come back to Ms. Harris.
All right, let's do
Okay,
that.
we'll do the first few speakers and then we'll check back. Emilio DeTore and then Chrissy Fung.
Hey, friends. Do I have to say my name and where I live?
And
You don't have to say where you live, but if you could spell your last name for the record.
Sure. My name is Emilio DeTore. My last name is spelled D-E space capital T-O-R-R-E. Esteemed members of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors. I've already told you my name, and I'm also the executive director of the Milwaukee Turners. What a beautiful evening. I'm here today to voice my support for the resolution establishing protections and accountability for the School Resource Officer Program. The Milwaukee Turners are dedicated to confronting mass incarceration and working towards a future with zero youth corrections. The presence of SROs in Milwaukee Public Schools drives the school-to-prison pipeline. There is, as you've already said, a multitude of data that shows police and schools actually make schools less safe. Data shows that school policing has a negative impact on graduation rates, GPAs, and attitudes towards safety. And when a young person is arrested at school, there is a 50% chance they will drop out. We cannot allow our youth to be pushed out of the school system and into the carceral system. We need this policy to keep normal teenage behavior from being criminalized. Before I moved to Milwaukee, I was a New York City public school teacher, and I spent years working with public school students in Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and Manhattan with the Boys and Girls Clubs. Milwaukee has been the most incarcerated city in the country, to say nothing of the brutal racial disparities, and it will stay that way if we don't change it. Inaction is injustice. History shows that policing in schools can have grave consequences, and although police must be in our schools for the time being, we need to set clear parameters, and this includes transparency and accountability. If we don't learn our history lessons, we are bound to repeat them, and that will only make all of this worse. Milwaukee MPS has an obligation to make decisions in the best interests of our students, and I'm trusting that you will do that by supporting this resolution. Thank you.
We have Chrissy Fung and then Angela Lang, and then we'll check back on the virtual platform.
Good evening. My name is Chrissy Fung, and I'm a resident of this city. I also serve on the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners for the City of Milwaukee, and tonight I want to share my perspective through the lens of transparency, oversight, and accountability. There is currently no MPD standard operating procedure, or SOP, on police in schools, and there's insufficient guidance in the IGA and existing policy on the role of SROs for effective oversight. As it stands, I don't even regularly receive data on student arrests and citations or uses of force, but I can tell you that our use of force SOP does not consider age a factor in a quote-unquote subject's lack of compliance. Alarmingly, I have also become aware that most students, parents, and teachers don't know they can file formal complaints against SROs if they need to with the Fire and Police Commission. But these complaints also need to show that officers acted against policy. From the data and reports I have seen, many instances of arrests, citations, and uses of force begin as school discipline issues. Expected adolescent behavior needs to be addressed with a focus on de-escalation and without using law enforcement as the first line of defense. And the only way to ensure this is to codify it in policy. In my opinion, current gaps in policy and lack of transparency for students and parents are a liability. They make oversight duties nearly impossible to accomplish, and they aren't safe for our kids. The resolution before you tonight is a crucial and careful first step towards closing these gaps and creating clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and scope of authority for SROs. This is what MPS and bodies like the FPC need for effective oversight, and it is what students deserve so they can coexist with SROs in schools as safely as possible. Finally, as a resident of this city, I believe every young person in Milwaukee deserves to feel safe in school and to thrive in a supportive learning environment. Students are the experts in their own lives, and I encourage you to listen to their expertise and support this resolution. Thank you for your time.
We have Angela Lang, and then we'll go to Ms. Harris on the virtual platform.
She's not on yet.
Oh, she's not on yet. Okay, we'll wait.
Good evening. My name is Angela Lang, L-A-N-G, and I'm the co-executive director of BLOC, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. First of all, I want to say thank you to Madam Chair for the resolution, as well as the rest of the directors. And I want to even greatly say a big thank you to the YES students that have organized and made sure to make their voices heard tonight. As someone that comes out of the student movement and as a proud graduate of Milwaukee Public Schools, class of 2007, I am here to make sure that every student has the same experience that I did so many years ago. I'm here in support of this resolution. I want to draw your attention to a recent article from the Journal Sentinel that came out today that said, quote, in the first 3 months of the new school resource officer program at Milwaukee Public Schools, police reported over a dozen arrests and $13,000 worth of citations, mostly against the district's own students, with Black students comprising about 92% of those named as suspects in the Journal Sentinel. That is roughly 85 of the 92 students' names as suspects were Black at about 93%. We are not blind to the current political climate that we are in right now. We know that increased police presence, especially in our schools where our students are meant to learn and be great stewards of the society, are also put at risk of the school to prison and school to deportation pipeline. And this resolution allows for accountability and transparency, especially in this tense political climate. And so I want to urge you all to support this resolution, and BLOC not only continues to stand with the students, but also making sure that every student has the ability to thrive and have the same experiences that I once did once upon a time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Christine Newman-Ortiz. And then next after Christine will be Kriste Pizarro.
Good evening, esteemed board members, superintendent. I am the executive director of Voces de la Frontera. I'm here to express our support for the resolution establishing protections and accountability for the School Resource Officer Program. We know that the implementation and resources spent on putting police in our schools was something that was forced upon us undemocratically as part of the state budget negotiations. In addition to the erosion of community oversight over local law enforcement by the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission's role. We know many studies have shown that putting more police does not make us safer. It is about building trusted relationships and bringing resources to our schools. So I'm very proud tonight to be here to support our student leaders of Voces' Youth Arm, Youth Empowered in the Struggle, and the teachers who thoughtfully worked to create this resolution to make their schools safer. This represents meaningful community and student oversight, and it creates essential guidelines to ensure school safety instead of building a school-to-prison pipeline. This is important as we have witnessed aggressive assault by ICE and Customs and Border Patrol in a community after community in and around our schools. But the resistance to this authoritarian violence by these paramilitary troops is growing. I applaud the hundreds of students of Rufus King, Reagan, and Riverside, some of which are here today, who peacefully walked out of 3 MPS schools to protest. And that is what is needed of all of us in terms of our civic duty to stand up for what's right and what's needed of you in your leadership position tonight. This resolution, in addition to the Student Bill of Rights, the Safe Haven policy, engages students, parents, and teachers and administrators in supporting immigrant families in our schools, and is needed to ensure that there is community control over how local law enforcement operates. Given the current environment, it is urgent to pass this resolution, and we look forward to working with the board and the superintendent to ensure that in addition to this policy, the safe haven policy is meaningfully implemented with community collaboration. Thank you.
And then we have Crystal Pizarro and Amina Jones.
Welcome NPS directors. My name is Amina Jones, Jones, and I attend Riverside High School. I am here as a member of YES to address the SROs in our school. The district doesn't realize that the SROs are making students so uncomfortable that they don't want to talk to one of our 5 counselors, including our psychiatrists. I mean, why would they want to talk about home problems or just problems at all, especially with the ICE situation going on? Scared about if the SROs in our schools listening, maybe even profiling them. This fear violates our resolution for students to feel safe in our schools. If you may know, our counselor office is right next to the main office, which the SROs reside. We don't want the SROs to overhear our personal conversations in which, from my experience, I see the SROs doing nothing, just walking the halls. Now, my school has no football stadiums, and our students deserve to have home games. The parents don't deserve to have driving 30 minutes there and back to watch their child play at another school, compared to more suburban schools in which they have better athletic equipment, in which because they have no SROs. This is why on the outside, our schools may seem ghetto or like, I feel if we have this athletic equipment and better groundwork, students wouldn't be fighting but blowing off steams in a hallway, but blowing off steams on a basketball court or football field. Now, our safety are some staff that we are familiar with, that I'm not afraid to crack jokes with. If some of this funding of the SROs are more funded to our security guards and that we have better training, we wouldn't be having this hearing. So this is why I write this hearing, to keep the SROs out and to use the funding for better causes and for students to feel safe and feel heard in our schools.
Is Crystal Pizarro speaking from Yes? Do I maybe have? No? Okay. Genzi Gonzalez. And then after Genzi, Connor Vance.
Hello, respected members of Milwaukee School Board. My name is Genzi Gonzalez, Gonzalez, a 12th grader at Milwaukee School of Languages, as well as part of CS. And I am here to voice my support for this resolution. At MSO, we currently do not have SROs, but what I can say passionately and honestly is that I have fear of having SROs once again. I will briefly speak out on why. We as students do not know what those 40 hours of training consist of, but we are supposed to feel at ease when we see how they escalate situations that could have been easily handled in a different situation. An example of this is using a weapon like a gun, which we have been fighting against being inside the building, so why is it in here now? The weapon on its own put us as students in fear. We are scared in our own school, in a building that has promised us growth, respect, and education. A building we all go to every day for a minimum of 8 hours a day. How could anyone let this happen? So what we're asking for is to at least help us by setting boundaries, being more transparent, and let us have a say on how our school should be for our success. Let us students be students, to have fun, learn, and grow together safely. Thank you.
Connor Vance, and then Peyton Bone. And then when you're ready, you can say your last name and,
Vance.
say your name and spell your last name for the record.
Connor Vance,
Thank you.
V-A-N-C-E. Thank you, members of the school board, for having me. My name is Connor Vance, as you know, and I'm here to support the proposed resolution. What I've heard from other schools with SROs is that the special education students have been treated with more force than needed, and they have been de-escalating, they have not been de-escalating situations properly. I heard of a recent situation where a special education student was tackled by an SRO and dislocated his shoulder, almost breaking his leg. Despite the 40-hour training for SROs, there are still many incidents around the district happening. If this resolution passes, SROs will have a clear set guidelines that we can hold them accountable to and keep my fellow peers and students safe. Thank you for your time.
We have Peyton Bone and Brooklyn Taylor Peace.
My name is Peyton Bone, B-O-N-E. I'm a student at Riverside. Okay. Imagine being a student walking into school every day, worried about getting to class on time, the stress of schoolwork, even about what happened at home seconds before. But with the constant presence of an armed officer walking your hallways. For some, this might feel like safety, but for the ones who didn't ask for them, it's the complete opposite. I asked my friend in my first hour 2 questions. What are 2 thoughts that pop into your head when you see cops anywhere? And do you want them in our school? Why or why not? He responded with the two thoughts that pop into my head would be, don't look threatening and remember your basic rights. And he responded with, no, I don't want them here. I feel like it's another thing I have to worry about. MPS is paying for half of the cost of up to 12 officers, which is a max of $478,000. This $478,000 is taken away from teacher pay, new notebooks, new workbooks, and more. Some people say things like, this will help build a relationship between cops and students. I believe that connection was lost long ago. My mother told me in the 90s, even at the height of crime, police officers would patrol the neighborhood handing out basketball and baseball cards to kids, reminding kids that they are safe around them. I believe that when the crimes grew, so did the gap between officers and students. With this being said, if police officers are to be in our school, I believe that they should have laws and rules just like we do. Thank you.
We have Brooklyn Taylor Peace and then John Fleisner.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brooklyn Taylor Peace, spelled capital Taylor hyphen capital Peace. I am a junior at Riverside University High School. I feel it is important that the SROs in our school have clear rules and guidelines that are communicated to everyone within the school district so it can give students and parents a sense of security. Students need to know that the police can't just do whatever they want. Many of the students at my school have either been in bad situations involving the police, have had someone they know be in bad situations, or have heard or seen nothing but the worst of them. Whether these situations are police brutality, dismissive attitudes, discrimination, or just seeing a loved one being arrested, the sight of police makes anybody uncomfortable, regardless of their wrongdoings or lack thereof. With what happened to George Floyd and the misplaced scrutiny of people of color during the Black Lives Matter movement, that followed still lingering in the back of our minds. The ongoing ICE raids and related cases of lethal force being used on innocent people. To have such an authority figure with full bullet protection and weapons strapped to their belts in arm's length is terrible, especially in a school filled with children of color that have grown up in the age of the internet, constantly seeing police using lethal force on, neglecting and being dismissive of people that look just like them plastered all over social media and the news. Regardless of if their presence in the schools is under the guise of protection and or convenience, the lack of clarification on their purpose and the lengths they could go to fulfill said purpose is nothing short of intimidating for both students and their parents. Thank you.
Then we have John Fleisner and Elijah Shorts.
Hello.
My name's John Fleissner, Fleissner. I'm with MTEA and YES and Voces de la Frontera. I teach at Hamilton High School. But, I really just wanted to raise the issue that the SROs in the schools was not something that our school district decided upon. The school board in 2020 voted actually to end their relationship with Milwaukee Police Department, and Act 12 by Republicans in the state legislature is what forced cops back in MPS schools against the democratic will of the school board. Nobody, students, parents, teachers, workers, didn't ask for police to be in the schools. So here we are in the situation where we have up to 33 police in the schools, which was actually more than the mandate that the Republicans in Madison said that we had to have. So what I'm saying and what we're saying is that we need to make sure that we are not going beyond what the Republicans in Madison are forcing upon us, okay? Because Republicans in Madison, they want our schools to be places that are full of intimidation. They're the same party that's pushing these ICE raids, and we're here to say that we don't want schools that are based on intimidation and fear. And we want schools based on liberation, and we believe in having discipline, but we want self-discipline and passion are to be the reasons why students come to school, not the kind of discipline where they're being shouted at and demeaned and controlled. So we need to really look at that. And I think that we see today that, the student, they speak for themselves. It's like the fact that they're showing up here to voice concern over this issue, and the fact that 3 schools walked out today in the hundreds against ICE raids, they go hand in hand. It's the complete militarization of our society, and we as adults need to stand with the students and say that we're not going to allow for this militarization of our society to go without standing up to it. So, last week I went to the SROs were kind of speaking out and talking about what they were doing in schools, and they were saying, oh, well, we want to be counselors, we want to be mentors. Counselor is a job in MPS, okay? But police are police. They're there for law enforcement, okay? So we need to make sure that we're not dressing up these SROs as like somehow nice guys either, because they're issuing tickets. Was it $15,000 in tickets right off the jump in the last 3 months? So thank you, vote in favor, I support it. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Fleissner. Then we have Elijah Shorts and Kirsch Hunter Prime.
And President Zomber, I'll let you know also that our speaker is online when you get a break in there.
After the next two, we'll go to our virtual speaker. Thank you.
All right. So my name is Elijah Shorts, and I come from Marshall High School on the side with Youth Empowered in the Struggle. To be honest, I always felt like I wasn't safe at schools. Now that the SROs are at schools, I don't feel safer. I saw the overuse of non-lethals in my school, and I saw a bunch of other officers using bodily force over the smallest reasons, and that could be really terrifying for the students. All bodies are different when they are affected with non-lethal items, including when you don't have a non-lethal item, such as, your hands. They can have an extremely serious condition against what force they are using, and they could be injured or die. And on top of that, they are not trained enough to deal with kids inside a high school. Did y'all know that they have, I heard there was like 40 hours for their training? I don't think that's enough to deal with kids with hormones inside of a school. But here's the situation, because I saw that they have a lot of, they have a lethal force, tasers, everything. Here's the situation right here. So imagine, big fight going on, and it's like an entire mob. Since the security or the safety, however you want to call it, I call them from a different place, the SRO will have to help stop the fight, right? And now, as in the middle of them stopping the fight, now you got to deal with a student trying to get the gun behind a person's kid. Now that creates an entirely new problem. So all I really ask is for y'all to support this resolution, is to lower the use of non-lethals and excessive force. Thank you and have a great night.
Okay, then we have Hirsch, Hunter Prime, and then we'll go to Angela Harris.
Hey everybody, my name is Kirsch Hunter Prime. Last name is Hunter space capital Prime. Hi. So I'm a high school teacher in the district, and we have an interesting situation where, like, our school's been really proactive about having the SROs in our school, and they've been all about it, like introducing our students in like a wide assembly, and they've been all over it, right? That being said, that is a lot of time and energy and money, right? That my administration team and all the, the people, the safety officers are working with these SROs are putting into that, right? And it's time that maybe could be used doing something else, right? That's the big thing for me. Like, we spend, I don't know how much money and time and resources scanning every single one of these kids before they come into the school, right? To make sure they don't have weapons, to make sure they don't have this, that. But then, a couple hours later, because they aren't typically there in the mornings, right? They come later in the day. When we really need them, it would be like the mornings, right, for scanning. They're not there for that time, right? They show up later, and then they come in with weapons, right? That we just spent all this time and energy trying to keep out of our schools, right? So that's concerning for me, one. I will say most of the students I've talked to about our SROs, they really are indifferent, to be perfectly honest. Again, I think that's part of our administration, like doing so much work to try to make this outreach happen, right? But there is still a percentage of the population that is like terrified, right, of these officers. And to me, having like majority of people go, I don't really care, versus I'm terrified to come to school, which one am I going to be more concerned with, right? So my job, of course, as a teacher is to make sure that they're comfortable, make sure that my students are here, they want to learn, they're excited to learn. Most of them are, right? But even if it's a couple, it's too much for me, okay? The other thing is, again, when the SROs are there, that's great. But we can't always predict when they're there. Sometimes they just don't come. Sometimes they get called out. They're not reliable, right? They don't work for MPS. If they were with MPS, we would know where they were, right? We would know when they were gonna be there. We'd be able to rely on them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're going to go to the virtual platform for Angela Harris, and then we have Annalise Schultz will be next up.
Angela Harris, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And I knew my dog was going to start barking as soon as I was unmuted. All right, good evening, Angela Harris, Harris, and I'm speaking in support of the resolution establishing protections and accountability for the School Resource Officer Program. Schools must be safe, welcoming spaces for learning, not extensions of the criminal legal system. When law enforcement is embedded in schools without clear boundaries, it doesn't just contribute, but fast-track students to the school-to-prison pipeline, where normal childhood behavior is treated as criminally disproportionate, impacting Black students, students with disabilities, and other marginalized youth. For immigrant students and mixed-status families, this pipeline doesn't stop at the courtroom. Contact with law enforcement at school can create fear, trauma, and in some cases, a pathway into immigration enforcement systems. Even when ICE is not physically present in schools, policing practices can contribute to a school-to-deportation pipeline, where families disengage from schools out of fear, undermining attendance, trust, and student well-being. This resolution is critical because it draws a firm line. It makes clear that school discipline belongs to schools, not police. It limits SROs to criminal matters only, protects students' rights to privacy and silence, restricts searches and arrests at schools, and affirms that dignity and development must come first. Importantly, this resolution also prioritizes accountability through public data reporting, a clear compliant process, and annual evaluation. Transparency is essential if we are serious about interrupting harm rather than documenting it after the fact. Wisconsin law mandated SRO presence, but it does not require harm. The board has the authority and the responsibility to ensure safety without criminalization and security without fear. I urge you to advance this resolution with fidelity and to commit to implementation that actively dismantles, not reinforces the school to prison and school to deportation pipelines. Our students deserve schools that protect their futures, not put them at risk. And while I got 23 seconds left, I would also like to suggest that perhaps the SROs don't come to school in full uniform with guns and tasers and weapons. Perhaps they could have a school-based uniform that has the school color, so if they want to put forth the image of being counselors or whatever they say, they could actually look like it. Thank you.
Then we have Annalise Schultz and Janessa Martinez.
Hello, my name is Annalise Schultz, last name spelled S-C-H-U-L-T-Z, and I am a junior at Alexander Hamilton High School. I would like to start off by thanking respective Milwaukee School Board members for allowing me to speak on behalf of MPS students. I'm here to speak in support of the beginning of page 2 on Missy Zomber's resolution, which states that school resource officers should not be involved in regular non-criminal school disciplinary measures. I find heavy importance in this part of the resolution as SRO involvement directly contributes to the school-to-prison pipeline. I've seen and heard of multiple instances where an officer unpromptedly got involved in a situation where a student was posing little to no threat. Things like yelling, tardiness, and other disorderly conduct that is not of legal matter can escalate into legal matters only when the police are involved, as their use of force can provoke students to resist officers or even resort to violence against the officers. This can lead to criminal charges for said students. I am in no way excusing disruptive behavior, but I would like to mention there was a lack of discipline for these behaviors before the introduction of SROs. How is it fair to students who have been socialized into thinking that fighting will give them little to no consequences when we've jumped from giving them one-day suspensions to giving them full-on criminal charges? I would also like to mention the demographics that show that all 11 schools with SROs are either predominantly Black or predominantly Hispanic. You can find that demographic information on usnews.com. Specifically, giving students of minority backgrounds a criminal record makes it harder for them to find employment, a place to live, and even further education like college and trade school. This does nothing but further extend the systematic poverty and oppression these groups already experience. Act 12 wasn't an act to promote safety. It was an act to promote racism and corruption, which is exactly why I think you should support this resolution and why I say school resource officers need to be restricted in terms of school disciplinary involvement. Thank you for your time.
Janessa Martinez and Jackson Tao.
Hi, my name is Janessa Martinez, and I am a junior at Milwaukee School of Languages. My last name is spelled M-A-R-T-I-N-E-Z. We previously had SRO officers, and they have since been removed. Our principal is looking into bringing them back where they are not wanted. Data shows that students of color, specifically Black students, are targeted at 6 times more than a white student. Students with disabilities are targeted at 2 times more than the overall student population, and our safety is being threatened. MSL is one of the most diverse schools in the district, and we have already seen the effects of force used by an SRO officer in the first months of Act 12, with there being 6 incidents between March 17th and June 13th, and half of those, they started as school policy violations, which are completely unrelated to criminal activity, and this is just the beginning. Then, there are incidents involving SRO officers that are withheld from the public, and it's up to students to advocate for our safety, where we should be using our funding to look into the causes of suspension and expulsions and have more social workers to help students feel safe in our environment. We are taught that violence is never the answer, yet they are putting violent armed men into our schools. I stand with yes, and I am full support of the resolution. Thank you.
Jackson Tao, and then Adriana Reams. Jackson Tao here? No? Coming? Okay.
Adriana Reams, R-E-A-M-S. I'm a senior at Golden Meyer School, and even though we do not have SROs in our schools, I'm here to demand the resolution to support comprehensive policy to put in rules and restrictions for school resource officers. Unlawful actions by unchecked ICE agents in Minneapolis and across the country go to show what can happen when law enforcement officers do not have clear and consistent training, guidelines, transparency, and accountability to prioritize safety and de-escalation. It is evident that when law enforcement officers work in communities they are not from, they are more likely to exhibit excessive force and not understand the communities. When we welcomed Columbus police officers into our city during the Republican National Convention, they unlawfully killed Sam Sharp Jr. in an act of excessive force because they did not understand Milwaukee and our unhoused communities. Even if SROs live in Milwaukee, which many do not under the provisions of Act 10, they do not know our school communities and they are not equipped to meet the needs of our students and understand certain nuances that are not known from outsiders. We do not want officers operating with children in areas of education to feel that they have this same free reign. SROs were rushed back into our communities by state government, but while they remain in schools, it is imperative that they receive ongoing training designed specifically for working with our students. In past implementation of SROs within MPS, they have been severely overused for standard discipline, bringing students committing minor infractions far closer to real police officers than they need to be, heavily reinforcing the school-to-prison pipeline. This starts their lives off predisposed to interactions with police, makes them feel like criminals, and raises their risk of being met with excessive force. Previously, the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights found that MPS demonstrated disproportionate consequences and punishments against Black, brown, and disabled students, and these students were more commonly referred to law enforcement. The ACLU found that the MPD, where these SROs are sourced from, also demonstrates racially disproportionate policing and unconstitutional stop and frisks and other policing habits. So far, in the current implementation, these patterns have not only continued but been exacerbated. We need this plan in place to ensure that inequitable discipline is not continued, and we are not putting our most at-risk students at further risk of overcriminalization, which has been proven to decrease their chances of graduation and post-secondary success. I implore you to support this resolution. Thank you.
And we have Jackson Tao and Amanda Merkway. You can go ahead, Jackson.
My name is Jackson Tao, and I'm a senior at Golden Meyer High School. I'm here supporting YES in their initiative to support the resolution to implement further boundaries on SROs and Milwaukee Public Schools. From my 17 years of attending Milwaukee Public Schools, I have never once felt that the excessive force of police officers is necessary to keep our schools safe. What has kept our schools safe are counselors, safety assistants, and well-trained staff and faculty. These staff and faculty include the mental health professionals that sit with our students and help us through the underlying issues that result in these conflicts. SRLs are simply a Band-Aid solution to a deeper problem, the generations-old trauma within the Black and brown communities of MPS. It is of utmost importance that we restrict as much SRO activity as possible. There should be absolutely no reason for SROs to be in our school, a place of learning and education. SROs are professionals in a field that is trained to destroy and neutralize threat, all of which are things that have no relation in the school environment. I implore you to take actions to implement further boundaries on SROs in Milwaukee Public Schools in order to foster a safe and supportive environment for us students. With input from your constituents, I ask that you support agenda item number 3.
And Amanda Merkway, and then after Amanda, we have Amber West.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Merkway. I'm a Milwaukee resident and the advocacy director for the ACLU of Wisconsin, and I'm here in support of this resolution. I previously served as a lawyer representing young people in suspension and expulsion hearings throughout Wisconsin, young people charged with crimes, and those placed in out-of-home care in the child welfare system. The young people I used to represent were students with disabilities and mental health diagnoses, young people trapped in the foster care system, those with an incarcerated parent, those living with trauma from witnessing or being victimized by unimaginable violence, those who don't know exactly where their family is going to sleep from night to night, and Black, Indigenous, and other young people of color who are profoundly affected by the systemic racism woven into our educational and legal systems. And they're all still required to go to school each day. Their layers of oppression don't exempt them from compulsory education laws. These are the students facing suspension, expulsion, and referrals to police at the highest rates. I've represented countless young people who face CO hearings and were charged with felonies and costly municipal citations for alleged conduct in Milwaukee public schools. Sometimes multiple consequences from multiple systems on multiple timelines, all in response to one incident. I'm talking 11, 12, 13-year-olds charged with felonies. My experience was back when MPD school squad was responding to calls from service and not stationed within the buildings. But the research is clear. The physical presence of police in school buildings inevitably leads to higher rates of contact with the municipal and criminal legal system for normative adolescent behavior and manifestations of students with disabilities. I watched body cam footage of police escorting students through school hallways in handcuffs, questioning them in classrooms without reading them their rights, and sometimes escalating a student's behavior after educators have already de-escalated a student in crisis. The ACLU of Wisconsin deeply appreciates the work of young people involved in YES, President Zombor, and so many others who made this resolution a reality to make sure that MPD, MPS students and families are on the same page about everyone's roles, rights, and responsibilities and ensure transparency and accountability. Please listen to and trust the expertise of young people telling you what they need to feel safe and supported at school. Thank you.
And we have Amber West and Dan Maldonado.
My name is Amber West, West W-E-S-T, and I'm here representing Leaders Igniting Transformation, or LIT. We are here tonight to support the YES students and the resolution proposed. In 2018, LIT published a report titled From Failure to Freedom, which published data on the prevalence of the school-to-prison pipeline within MPS. At that time, all 9 school board members signed on to our Youth Power agenda, calling on MPS to invest in student success and safety while divesting from criminalization of students in schools. And in 2020, LIT worked alongside the community and the school board to end the contract between MPS and MPD for the School Resource Officer Program. And while SROs are now state mandated, it is critical that this school board takes responsibility for ensuring student safety without further criminalizing Black and brown youth. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported today that students receive citations for things like attempting to use the bathroom, taking home Chromebooks, and throwing empty water bottles. Things that are developmentally normal for teenagers and should be met with intervention, redirection, and support, not punishment. And while I urge you to adopt the resolution put together by the YES students and directors on board, we ask that you include some of the things like SROs should not be in full uniform with full weapons. Next is that students and community voices should be included in their evaluation process through either surveys, community discussions, or other feedback mechanisms. And lastly, students' rights should be proactively taught and reinforced, not simply inserted into school handbooks. If these requests are not feasible, we ask that the board provides clear context to the public as to why. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Dan Maldonado and then Juan Miguel Martinez.
Good evening, everyone. Dan Maldonado, M-A-L-D-O-N-A-D-O. As I mentioned, my name is Dan Maldonado. I'm the co-executive director of Leaders Igniting Transformation, a proud MPS alum and a graduate from the Riverside University High School. And I'm here in support of YES, VOCES, and this resolution. I want to acknowledge the intent behind this resolution. It's an important step toward creating clear boundaries, accountability, and protections for students. But it's also important to ground this conversation in what we already know from the early data. In the first 3 months of the new School Resource Officer Program, police reported more than 120 incidents and citations in MPS buildings, including over a dozen arrests and about $13,000 in fines. Most of that enforcement was directed at MPS students. The racial disparity is especially concerning. About 92% to 93% of students named as suspects were Black, even though black students make up only 48% of the district's enrollment. Those numbers matter. They tell us that without strong guardrails, clear roles, and better training, school-based policing risks reinforcing the very disparities this resolution is trying to prevent. First, student voice needs to be meaningfully embedded in this work. Students aren't just impacted by these policies, they experience them every day. They should have a role in shaping training priorities, defining safety, and evaluating how this program is actually working. Second, SRO training needs to exceed minimum requirements. The 40-hour training baseline required by the National Association for SROs, or NASRO, falls short of what's needed for officers serving students in schools, especially when responding to trauma, disability, and adolescent behavior. We're calling for ongoing semester-based training focused on adolescent development, de-escalation, disability awareness, and racial equity, informed by student and community feedback. Third, public reporting needs to be clear, more accessible, and proactive. Right now, family and community members are being told that this information is available through a quote-unquote simple records request. But when it comes to data that directly affects student safety and school climate, access shouldn't depend on knowing how to navigate public records, processes, or waiting for investigative reporting. So to conclude, at LIT, we support this resolution and see it as an important step forward for our Black and brown youth in Milwaukee. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Juan Miguel Martinez and Nicholas Doherty.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Juan Miguel Martinez. I'm the county supervisor for the 12th district, also a proud MPS graduate of MSL in 1998 and High School of the Arts in 2002 with Director Reza. So I'm here to speak in support of the resolution before this body today. The placement of SROs in MPS is absolutely wrong on all levels, but now that Act 12 has done what it does, I mean, we must act to regulate overreach. While there may be problematic students, this does not mean that the presence of law enforcement will deter the behavior that we seek to alleviate. It would only exacerbate it. Money is better placed in the hands of schools that will put it towards after-school activities and mentorship programs, which have been proven to quell student misbehavior, where kids can go on to trade schools and scholarships. We have to stop treating kids like criminals, something which seems to be a specific problem only to public schools, especially in Milwaukee. Is that a coincidence? No, because it's where most Black and brown students are getting their education. Because the school-to-prison pipeline is a very real thing that must be dealt with instead of ignored. Issuing as many tickets as I heard are being issued is in no way, shape, or form a solution. It's just a tax on the poor. Tickets are a tax on the poor. We have invaluable resources at our disposal, yet we keep choosing to pump money into law enforcement. We need to learn to prevent and nurture instead of responding with punishment. So I urge this body to approve the resolution before you, working to uplift the mission at hand, which is to mold young minds and direct them toward a brighter future instead of treating our schools like jails. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Nicholas Doherty and Alan Chavoya. Sorry, I should know that.
Hi, good evening. I am reading this testimony on behalf of my colleague, Nicholas X. Doherty, Doherty, and for the record, my name is Emily Sterk, Sterk. My name is Nicholas X. Doherty, and I serve as the Confronting Mass Incarceration Coordinator at the Milwaukee Turners. A key part of addressing mass incarceration is ensuring that young people from marginalized communities receive proper education. Without education, young people find it harder to realize their dreams, which can lead to involvement in criminal activity, and ultimately their lives are destroyed as they languish in prisons. Therefore, SROs in schools are problematic because over-policing is both a historical and contemporary issue that contributes to many social problems in our communities. Research indicates that policing in schools can lead to decreased GPAs, lower graduation rates, and increased instances of school violence. Also, poor community police relations do not end at the school doors. Instead, they extend into the educational environment. Policing in schools that serve marginalized populations often become a tool to reinforce the school-to-prison pipeline. We cannot afford to lose our future due to misguided decisions by the Wisconsin state legislature. Education is the path to freedom and a better world. If we allow our youth to be pushed out of schools and into the carceral system, our future is at risk. Education is the torchlight of civilization. Without a solid education, we are ill-equipped to solve society's many problems. If we intend to make our communities safe and decent places to live, we must prioritize education, and over-policing of young people in schools certainly does not help. That said, police should not be present in schools, and especially without a policy. So please vote to pass this resolution and help limit police activity in our public school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Alan, and then Casey Serrano.
Good evening, Alan Chavoya, last name Chavoya. Thank you, board, for hearing us out tonight. But before I start, thank you to all the MPS students. Give yourselves some love, please. I'm honored to have been invited to speak today on behalf of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, where our core mission is community control of the police. Now, I've had an honor, a painful one at that, of working with many families in Milwaukee whose loved ones have been killed by police. It's devastating seeing what leads to them getting there. And when I learn about their histories, people like Sam Sharp, whose name Adriana raised today, people like Joel Acevedo, people like Jay Anderson, Alvin Cole, many of them, when I listen to their families speak, they talk to me about the interactions they had with law enforcement prior to that fatal encounter. And a lot of times it starts in schools. It starts in the youth. So why are we putting them back in? Because of Act 12, a racist act that forced cops back into schools, that stripped the Fire and Police Commission of its policy creating power. We're here demanding control over these cops in our schools. We don't want them in there. The students made that very clear in 2020, but they were forced back in. So now we're doing what we can, which is community control over them. That's the way that we're going to stop police crimes, whether they're attacking us viciously in the streets or in the hallways of MPS. And so I'm incredibly honored to stand with the students today. Just listening to them, I don't have to recount everything they stated for the reasons why this is needed. But I can tell you that if we don't put an end to it before it becomes a problem outside of school, when they leave MPS, we're going to have way more police crimes happening in Milwaukee. And that's something we just can't allow. So we have an opportunity to start finding solutions before they become terrible problems for us as a community. And so it's incredible watching students, faculty, staff, community members come together. This is unity, unity in action, and this is unity that changes Milwaukee. And guess what? This is Milwaukee. So thank you all so much, and I'm proud of our students today.
Thank you. Then we have Casey Serrano, and then Julissa Velasquez.
Hello, everybody. My name is Casey Serrano. That's Serrano. And I'm also up here with the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I think a lot of adults in this room, unless you're younger than I am, probably remember when you started school that there didn't used to be code red drills. There didn't used to be necessarily metal detectors by the door. There didn't used to be all of these threats that we see today. There used to be ICE raids and immigration, yes, but you didn't see things like we see in Minneapolis now. And we didn't have any of those threats, and people felt that the schools were safer than they are now. And we've brought in the SROs to address this school safety concern that we hear about over and over again, but it's not actually addressing the real safety concerns that students have at school. Right? There were fights at school when I was in school. There were all of these behaviors that teenagers have always exhibited, and that did not make me feel unsafe at school. But if I were a student today, knowing that someone could walk into the school, commit a mass shooting, and more times than not, we see the SROs run and hide, or know that I could walk into a school and it could be, you know, almost negative 14 degrees in Minneapolis, and we could see horrible, horrible videos of children being pulled out of schools and thrown into the snow by ICE agents, and SROs are not stopping them, then why would we think that bringing the SROs into the schools and letting them loose with no rules would be a sign of school safety? It's time for us to really take this idea of community control seriously, and to take the idea seriously that the community, which is not the people in Madison, which is the students who have done amazing, amazing work to work with Director Zombor and to lift up these demands today, the teachers who work with them through YES, the community organizations like the Voces and Block and the Milwaukee Alliance and LIT that are here, that the actual community of Milwaukee can tell you what it would take to stop the real safety threats in our schools. That it would take people who are well-fed, people who have access to health care, who have access to mental health care, that it would take fully funded communities that will never be fully funded as long as so much money is being spent on the police and the sheriff. So tonight, I really hope that this passes, and it would be a testament to the hard work of many people in this room, but especially the hard work of these YES students who have been out here having meeting after meeting and coming together to make this happen. Thank you.
We have Julissa and then Ron Jansen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julissa Velasquez. Velasquez, Velazquez, and I'm here on behalf of the Milwaukee Area Labor Council. I'm here in support of the resolution requiring accountability and transparency from the student resource officers in MPS schools. I'm also here in support clearly of our students and our union siblings at MTEA fighting for this resolution. Union represented jobs often require the highest levels of training and are subject to the highest levels of regulation. So please tell me why armed officers are allowed to be in our schools with our students without any oversight. We believe that all students deserve a chance at a future, and it's clear that SROs limit this chance by further developing the school-to-prison pipeline. This pipeline will only continue to prosper if accountability and transparency are ignored. Instead, we hope for a pipeline that will put students in college or, of course, a good union job. Again, we stand in solidarity with the students at YES and our MTA siblings and urge you to pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ron Jansen and Alondra Garcia.
Good evening, Ron Jansen, Jansen. I'm a proud Riverside alumni and a current MPS parent. I stand in support with these students and other community members in support of this resolution because the Milwaukee Police Department is an inherently violent and harmful occupying force. They have no place in our schools. Building policy that puts up as many guardrails as possible between students and the violent fantasies and tendencies of MPD officers is the very least we can do. To add to the urgency, just this week it was revealed that MPD Chief Norman received anti-terrorism training in Israel, the Zionist entity currently violating a ceasefire and murdering Palestinians in their ongoing genocide. I've seen with my own eyes the horrific violence the Zionist entity commits on the men, women, and children in Palestine, Lebanon, and countless other places. No officer that has been anywhere near that type of training should be in a school. The connection between the genocide in Palestine and the violence that MPD commits in our communities and schools is directly linked to the dehumanization of the entire population of Palestine and enables the further dehumanization of Black and brown children here in Milwaukee. We must continue to work to push pigs out of our schools, off of our blocks, and out of our communities. We must fight back against our Republican mayor, Cavalier Johnson, and his fascist friends in the Republican-controlled state legislature. Our children deserve to be free of the presence of a force of people who likely couldn't even pass the classes being held in the building they're sent to patrol. Let's do everything we can to protect our children from MPD, pass this policy, and ensure it is followed strictly. Thank you.
Up next, we have Alondra Garcia and Kayla, I think it's Coleman.
Alondra Garcia, Garcia. Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent. My name is Alondra Garcia, and I'm a second grade bilingual teacher at Allenfield Elementary, a proud MTA member, and the Board President of Voces de la Frontera. According to the open records, more than half the incidents were school policy violations rather than criminal activity. These incidents show how the presence of police in MPS schools criminalizes normal school behavior. Being in schools is not a job the police are suited to do, in the same way that police aren't suited to do mental health work. The lack of consistency about when and why schools call MPD is evident. The lack of transparency and accountability is evident. The need for clear parameters and operating guidelines for the program is evident. Our community has been advocating for more mental health services for a long time rather than police involvement as a way to help students navigate emotions and resolve conflicts to create a safer school environment. And look at where we are right now. At this school board meeting, reporting the tactics that SROs are using to de-escalate student conflicts that are clearly not helping at all. Our students feel unsafe around them, and I do too. If we, as MPS, say we truly mean all means all, then this demand is part of it. Personally, I don't trust the police at all since I have been racially profiled by the police because of my identity. And I know they won't do anything to protect our students, families, and staff when ICE agents come knocking down on our school doors to terrorize our community, especially during dismissal, because clearly there isn't a uniform protocol in place at every school building in the district from what I know. It is not a matter of if, but when, because I know that they will be coming to Milwaukee, and what are we going to do then, huh? MPS isn't ready for when ICE comes, and that is a given. We demand that students be informed of their rights, for a clear complaint process where students and others can report abuses or misconduct by school resource officers. We demand SROs to be held accountable for their inhumane actions towards our students. I am asking for the school board to support this resolution for a comprehensive policy to put in place rules and restrictions for school resource officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Kayla Coleman and then Kayla Patterson.
My name is Kayla, C-O-L-E-M-A-N. Hello, good evening. My name is Kayla Comey, and I'm here as a student at Hamilton High School as a member of YES. I'm here to support students who are asking for clear rules and limits for school resource officers. This is not about being against safety. It is about protecting students. Students deserve to feel safe in school, not watched or treated like criminals. Over-policing hurt students and push them out of classroom, especially Black and brown students. This research puts students' rights first and creates accountability. I ask you to support this research and stand with the students. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
And we have Kayla Patterson, so we have three left. Kayla Patterson, Nick Honorato, and Kelly Lempa.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Patterson. I'm here as the co-chair of the Milwaukee Alliance, as well as a proud Rufus King graduate, class of 2020. As my comrades mentioned in the Alliance, we're very familiar with Act 12 and all the chaos that it has brought to the city. We fight for truth, transparency, and most importantly, community control over police and education. And with this being an intersection between the two, the Alliance commends the student organizers that filled this room tonight, and we stand with them in support of this resolution. There's a long-standing top-down agenda to criminalize our youth in this city. Between SROs, the manufactured crackdowns on reckless driving and street takeovers, and now the threat of ICE raids at home nationally, we must ask, where can our youth go and feel safe? We've also got to recognize that these SROs, their presence in schools, is something of an attack on the working class. We know the average income of these impacted neighborhoods, and it's just another unnecessary tax on working parents to pay hundreds and even thousands, I'm hearing, over citations for regular teenage behavior. But bottom line, as Adriana said earlier, the police are never in the practice of de-escalation. So SROs going unchecked means it's only a matter of time before we lose another Sam Sharp Jr., another Alvin Cole, or another Corey Stingley. If we have any chance to stop that, we need to take it every time. So down with SROs, up with community controlled, and let's get this resolution passed. Thank you.
We have Nick Honorato and Kelly Lempa.
Good evening, Nick Honorato, O-N-O-R-A-T-O. Members of the board, I am here in support of these students and the resolution that they helped craft. They are requesting that MPS put into place policies to guide interactions in our schools with members of our law enforcement. Students, parents, and staff all want safe schools. We want students to have access to the support they need in every school across this city with trained professionals with whom they have relationships, who know them, who know their families, and in some case know their disabilities. School resource officers are in our schools not because the students and families in MPS asked for it. They are in our schools because of a deal that was made with Mayor Cavalier Johnson and County Executive David Crowley with the Republican legislature. The students and families of MPS deserve to have clarification and accountability about where police duties begin and end. Teachers, school social workers, counselors, special education teachers, and the professional support staff like paraprofessionals and our school safeties are trained to work with students and do so without the danger of increasing the school-to-prison pipeline. This policy should move forward with the authentic input of the students of the youth empowered in the struggle. No one asked for school resource officers in our schools. But if they're going to be thrust upon us, the board must ensure that there be regulation, oversight, and transparency. Thank you.
And then Kelly Lempa.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Lempa, L-E-M-P-A. I'm a member of MICA ETF, Milwaukee Intercity Congregations Allied for Hope's Education Task Force, and I'm also an MPS employee. I would urge the board tonight to accept Director Zomber's resolution establishing protections and accountability for the School Resource Officer Program. As we've heard tonight, and we know, SROs have been stationed in Milwaukee Public Schools since March of 2025. That's almost a full year. And while we have the Memorandum of Understanding regarding their roles in MPS, there's no clear policies, procedures, rules, regulations established for them, as we've heard. All MPS employees have policies and procedures outlining our duties and roles and establishing both expectations and limits to our roles with students, parents, staff, and the community. This is for everyone's protection. In order to be able to work in MPS, we are annually required to review those and sign off that we understand and will abide by them. How is it possible that SROs do not have this in place? They don't have policies, they don't have procedures in place, and it's almost been a year. The need for protections and accountability is very real. We've heard from so many students tonight. Student safety and integrity is at risk when we allow SROs who are in positions of power to just have general guidelines rather than clear policy and procedure. Please accept Director Zomber's resolution. Please listen to the student input that we heard tonight, to staff input, and to community input as you move forward in working together with administration to draft up policy and procedures. I would also urge you to get input and feedback from various departments in MPS as the policy is drafted. There's various MPS staff roles that intersect in different ways with SRO roles. A comprehensive dive into these intersections is important to ensure protections for students in every type of situation that might occur in schools. For example, support staff in MPS are professionally trained in assessing students who have made suicidal comments, self-harm comments, or who are exhibiting suicidal behaviors. MPS procedures require that students that are exhibiting these behaviors or make these comments are seen immediately by professionally trained support staff in order to be assessed. However, currently, there's nothing stopping our SRO officers from choosing to make their own assessment of a student who might be in mental health crisis. There's nothing stopping them from handcuffing students and taking them away in squad cars, and this has happened. We need policies and procedures to be put in place that protect students from this occurring. When it comes to students' mental health, their safety, and their assessments of their mental health and safety, students need to be seen by support staff, not SROs. Thank you.
And then I know we also have 17 slips that are in support of the resolution but do not wish to speak. And so then with that, do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Reza.
I just want to say thank you to the community organizations and most of all MPS students being here and speaking up. As a board member, we need to establish protection for our students. Our schools must be safe, but also remain for our students to feel supported, respected, and able to learn. It also is important to clarify that SROs should focus genuinely on safety and criminal matters, not routine school discipline. That responsibility belongs to our educators, who know their students and are trained to support their development. The resolution also protects students' rights, privacy, parent notification, limits on questioning and use of force, and also through reporting and accountability measures. These safeguards help prevent unnecessary harm for our students who have been impacted. So in this resolution, we can meet safety requirements, strengthening between schools, families, and communities. So I support this policy and urge the community to move forward in the best interest of our students.
Thank you, Director Rosa. And thank you for joining us tonight. I know this isn't a committee that you're on, but thank you for coming and and listening to everyone. Do other committee members have? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. So obviously I'm going to echo the sentiments. Thank you so much to all the students and Yes and Lit and Voces and Block and Milwaukee Turners and all of the organizations that came out to support tonight. And thank you to Director Zombor for bringing this forward for consideration. The questions I have are more around like tactical. So when we're talking about like the quarterly reports that are on page 4, I was just wondering if we have an idea when these would start and which committee, because it's really great that everybody's here, but I hope you all show up when we start hearing about these reports so that we have continued engagement and accountability, not just from the board, but from the community as well. So I don't know if we've given that thought yet.
Administration.
Chairs on board, Director O'Halloran, members, we would be happy to report that. We're doing the quarterly reports for audits, and we could certainly do that. And I'd offer if MPD has the data available, we could have that for our next quarterly report on audits. I think it's next month. I think it's in February. So we could give some baseline data and then work from there in the next quarterlies, if that works for you, but otherwise we're happy to give you it any way that you'd like.
Dr. Owen Moore, what committee do you think that would go to? Would that be SASE or FACE?
Actually, school climate matters go to FACE.
FACE. Okay. But I thought we moved some of it to SASE.
The school climate piece was moved, I believe, to FACE,
Okay.
actually, in that.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so then if it goes to FACE, we can work with the chair of FACE to make sure there's the appropriate information. And then when administration brings back the policy recommendation, we could just specify to which quarter the data is going to be coming forward to the board. And then also we need to make, well, if it's coming to the board, it'll be publicly available, but we can specify some of that in the policy as well when it comes forward.
Okay.
Administration?
Chair Zomber, I don't know if we could check with Jill on our quarterlies. Were those going to AFP? I thought we had done it at the superintendent's report, and that got a little long, so I thought we were going to go to AFP on that.
Madam Chair, Madam Superintendent, are you referring to the audit reports?
Yes.
Audit matters do go through AFP.
Right, and accountability.
Yes.
So this would be an accountability measure. So I just asked consideration, we could put it with the other data that we're putting in. I'm not opposed to also presenting it at FACE as a point of information as well. If that Director Ferguson would put it on the agenda, we could do it at both places so parents get it and we make it very public.
Okay, thank you. Director O'Halloran, any follow-up?
And then for the annual, it says annually invite the Fire and Police Commission and MPD to conduct a joint review and evaluation on page 5. Just wondering when we envision that starting, how that evaluation will be conducted. Tonight we heard from in the testimony, that incorporates, student voice and family voice as well. So if we have thoughts about how that evaluation would be conducted, and once again, which committee do we think that might come to at some point?
Administration?
Chairs on board, Director O'Halloran, members, I do believe that an evaluation is part of the law and part of the IGA. So that is already part of what we're planning on doing, and we just will publicly report that as well.
And then I think what probably wasn't in the IGA was inviting the Fire and Police Commission to be a part of it.
Certainly could do that.
So that's an important part. And then also, I did hear student feedback, student voice, if there's a way we can capture that in the evaluation as well.
Yeah. And at some point,
And
it would
departments.
Yes, and departments as well. It would just be nice to know, like, if we can, what the exact timeline is, understanding that tonight we're not going to hammer out every detail, but it would be nice to know for, like, the listening audience, hey, I'm really into this, I want to know more. Should I come back in August? Should I come back in June? Just those kinds of just follow-up notes. And then just one more question, Madam Chair, if I may. I did ask before SROs were deployed about the uniform question, and I know I was told that they have to wear their uniforms. It's a matter of their policy, and I was just wondering if there is any follow-up discussion or how we can talk more about this, because when we're talking about taking the temperature down of fear, I think having them not show up in, full gear might make some students feel more at ease. So I don't know to whom that question would be posed, but can we get a clear, definitive answer about possibly requesting that?
Administration?
Chairs on board, Director O'Halloran, on the former question, I would say maybe we could say June 30th, we could have a report out for the year evaluation. I think we could get data and how the whole year has gone. We put these in December 15th. I remember it clearly. It was my very first day of work here in the district. So I think if we put June 30 on as a date for the evaluation by that, no later than. And then on the question of uniforms, when I was superintendent in Boston, we had to actually shift. We had special police who were in our buildings. The state legislature made a law against the special police and took away their policing powers. And so we worked with them on uniform. So uniform is really a definition. And police are often in undercover uniforms. And so I'm happy to bring this back to Chief Norman and their team around uniforms and get better clarity on what they define as uniforms, and if there could be a different definition for that in our schools. I think also with that is the level of gear up in the, what they are having in terms of their weapons and protections. I think that is also something that we could discuss with them, and I'm happy to do that.
Any follow-up, Director O'Halloran?
I have no further questions. I just want to lift up that twice we heard the name Alvin Cole tonight, and I just want to lift up that that was an MPS student who was murdered by the police. So I think we need to take these matters very seriously and advocate for our students. I don't think anybody up here is necessarily opposed, but I do want to center that this work is of critical importance in protecting our students. So thank you to everybody who came out tonight.
Do other committee members have comments or questions? Vice President Herndon?
Thank you very much. I want to say it was great to see you all out tonight on such an important issue, and it was nice for me to see some of my old friends from some of these issues that we dealt with as we passed the policy in 2020. It was a lot of work, but I'm glad to see that you took time out of your busy day and evening in this cold weather to come out, and I, for one, will be supporting this.
Any other comments or questions? You're ready to vote? Okay. Yes, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of Resolution 2526R-004 by Director Zombor on accountability for the School Resource Officer Program with the recommended revisions as attached.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, the Secretary will please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve Resolution 2526R-004 by Director Zombor on accountability for the School Resource Officer Program with the revisions as attached. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And Chair Zombor.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. We have a quorum.
Motion passes. Thank you. So I'd like to thank the students and community members who shared their courageous testimony tonight. Behavior that harms students and our community should never be tolerated, rationalized, or normalized. Your words will help us take action to create stronger policies and a new MOU. So with that, Madam Secretary, I'd like to call a 5-minute recess as the auditorium clears, and then we'll continue on with the rest of our agenda. Please note the time. The Committee on Legislation, Rules, and Policies was taking a brief recess, and we are re-adjourning. Madam Secretary, what is the next item, please?
Madam Chair, we're back to item 1, which is action on a request to revise Administrative Policy 6.35 Whistleblower Protection. The Office of Accountability and Efficiency recommends that the wording of the Administrative Policy 6.35 be replaced entirely as presented in the attachments to this item.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the item?
Thank you, Chair Zambor. Matt Chasen, OAE. As the district continues to work with its policy partner, Neola, we reviewed Administrative Policy 6.35 Whistleblower Protections. The Neola language, I think you'll find, is simpler, more streamlined. It's a more standardized approach than our current offering. I think this language fits better within the current governance structure within the organization as well, given the sort of the three arms, the triumvirate that appears here between OAE, OBG, and the administration. I think it allows for better, clear escalation through each of those arms with a safety blanket at the top regarding concerns that might be raised regarding individuals at the top of the organization. It's for all these reasons that we recommend the adoption of that language from Neola tonight.
Okay, thank you. Do committee members have any questions or comments? Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. I move approval of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency's recommendation to replace in its entirety Administrative Policy 6.35 as presented in the attachment to this item, to be clear, the revised, to replace it with the revised version, please.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, the secretary will please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve OAE's recommendation to replace in its entirety Administrative Policy 6.35 Whistleblower Protection with the attached recommendation to this item. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Our next item is item 3. It's work session on policy review, consideration of and possible action on Section 5,000 students.
Would the Office of Board Governance please present the item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, we are presenting draft policies for Section 5,000, which are the policies that concern students. Before the committee begins its discussion, we have received a request to withdraw certain drafts at this time to have additional discussion with our union partners. We would like to withdraw policies 5136 on personal communications devices, 5200 on attendance, 5410 and 5411 on promotion retention of students, and 5850 on social events.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public who wish to make comments on any of these policies in the work session packet?
We do not.
Okay, so then we will begin our work session. Do any committee members wish to set any other policies, or wish to set aside policies for separate consideration that weren't withdrawn? Yours were withdrawn, so we'll hold those questions until it comes back. Anyone else have any policies to set aside? Director Herndon, do you have any? No? Okay. All right, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Vanoy? Okay.
Is that what we do?
Or just move to approve since, well, yeah, the balance since we did withdraw 4. Okay, yep.
On Director.
Oh, does administration have any? No, okay, sorry. Or OAE, okay, all right, then we can proceed.
On Director Vanoy's motion to approve the balance of the policies in Section 5,000 students. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this evening's agenda.
Okay, there being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.